Hello everyone, this is Erik, the Asian movie enthusiast, and these are 15 Japanese films from the 1960s that you should watch. Let's do it. Japan's Longest Day, 1967. This is a war drama thriller. Following the detonation of the atomic bombs during World War II, the Japanese military and government clash over the demand from the Allies for unconditional surrender. This film is more interesting than you might expect. The ideological machine of the Japanese military was so fanatically one-minded that the attempt to ramp it down was met with considerable resistance. Much of the film focuses on the drafting of the announcement of surrender to the Japanese citizens, as well as the military's attempt to secure power and intercept the communication. There are a lot of recognizable actors in this as well. Toshiro Mifune, Chishu Ryu, Makoto Sato, etc. Great stuff from director Kihachi Okamoto. Conspirator, 1961. This is a drama. After two hostile clans reach an artificial reconciliation, which involves the marriage of a person from each family, the young husband attempts to endure his hatred for his parents. There's a lot of bad blood between the characters in this film, and that provides some surprisingly engaging conflict. Direction by Daisuke Ito is impressive, as are the set designs. Performances are intentionally exaggerated, but also very effective. I enjoyed the brief curse ritual scenes as well. This is very good, and also underappreciated for a samurai tale. Goyokin, 1969. This is a drama action flick. A guilt-haunted samurai attempts to stop a massacre from taking place. Now, this can be easily described as a quality film because it focuses a lot on character development, especially the guilt of the protagonist and how he tries to redeem himself. But there are some sword fights peppered in as well. The acting is commendable from some well-known actors like Tatsuya Nakatai, but the supporting actress, Ruriko Asaoka, made the most lasting impression on me. This is set in snowy winter environments, which are captured very nicely and add a lot of atmosphere. The finale takes place on a seaside with tons of huge tree logs and fires blazing. Very cool stuff from Hideo Gosha. Emotion, 1966. This is a genre bender, kind of a drama, comedy, horror film. It also has a pretty short runtime. So it's a bizarre experimental film that's about 40 minutes long by Nobuhiko Obayashi, the director of House. And this is about a small-town girl who moves to the city and befriends a variety of odd people, including Dracula himself. The visuals are highly energetic and employ a variety of techniques. Use of color is excellent. The editing is frenetic, but in an experimental and unusually engaging way. For example, stop motion is used, and sometimes the characters will move around the screen in what appears to be 10 frames per second. The music is very good. There are even a few creepy moments to enjoy as well. Now, this film, as you can expect from this director, is loaded to the brim with WTF moments that make it one of the best weird films from this decade. Legend of a Duel to the Death, 1963. This is a thriller. After settling down in Hokkaido after World War II, two refugee families from Tokyo endure friction with the locals after certain historical events are brought to light and rumors begin to spread among the villagers. The conflict is properly developed and escalates to create some lengthy, suspenseful sequences where people must fight for their lives. The black and white cinematography is quite beautiful. This film by Keizuke Kinoshita feels like a gritty, old-school American Western, and it's one of my personal favorites in this director's entire filmography. I, the Executioner, also known as Requiem for a Massacre, 1968. This is a drama thriller mystery. The cops investigate a series of brutal murders that are aimed at women. Although the murderer is shown during the opening scene, a mystery is established related to his unknown motives, as well as the suspicious behaviors of related persons. Makoto Sato is very good as the merciless killer, and his relationship with the waitress is endearing. There are stylish direction and black and white visuals to enjoy, as well as some unnerving murder sequences. a solid flick from Tai Kato. Kuroneko, also known as Black Cat, 1968. This is a horror film. After being murdered by Ronin, a woman and her daughter seek revenge from the grave. There's fantastic use of lighting in this black and white film, with some neat set designs that look like they almost glow in the dark. Very high contrast, I guess you would call it. And there are lots of references to black cats. So, for example, the ghosts have some animalistic mannerisms at times. The dramatic elements come into play with the third character who is assigned to investigate the ghostly events, but also had a relationship with the murder victims when they were alive. That creates the main conflict of interest here. Very cool movie from Kaneto Shindo. Intentions of Murder, 1964. This is a drama. Shohei Imamura directs this film about a housewife who endures both the unpleasant company of her husband as well as the repetitive sexual assaults of a disturbed burglar. Now, a number of themes are explored here, including the stigma attached to being a rape victim. And there are a few really cool scenes involving trains, cars, and even a dress shirt. The running time does feel a bit long at 150 minutes, but this is a very impressive film with fine acting across the board. Red Angel, 1966. This is a war drama romance. Set in 1939 during the Sino-Japanese War, a young nurse is sent to the field hospitals in China to assist doctors in treating severely wounded soldiers. Now, this is a moderately violent movie involving bloody surgery scenes, but it also has a considerable emphasis on sensuality and romance amidst the carnage and disease. Now, war is depicted here as physically and emotionally brutal. There's a multifaceted approach to its depiction of Japanese soldiers as well, because it shows their depraved animalistic misconduct, as well as the horrific situation that has driven them to the brink of insanity. There's one good battle sequence, but the intent here is to impact the viewer on a more dramatic level. This could be Ayako Wakao's best performance. Red Angel is one of Yasuzo Masumura's best films. Pale Flower, 1964. This is a crime drama. A Yakuza hitman goes thrill-seeking with a beautiful young woman in this film by Masahiro Shinoda. Much of the runtime is spent on high-stakes underground gambling dens. An all-around solid flick with very good performances, engaging character interaction, and some memorable sequences. There's a dream sequence, a car chase, etc. Many fans of this director would likely argue that Pale Flower is Shinoda's best film. It's kind of hard to argue against it. Woman in the Dunes, 1964. The story follows an entomologist schoolteacher who goes on an expedition to collect insects that inhabit sand dunes. He misses the last available ride for the day, so the villagers recommend that he stay at the house of a widow for the evening. Now, the most obvious compliment to be made is with regards to the sandscapes, which are captured with fantastic camera work. And the sand itself does not merely act as a background environment. It exists as like an omnipresent force that's both beautiful and dangerous. Characters are involving, the acting is very good, and the scenario is attention-grabbing. There is some symbolism to mine out of this as well. And our protagonist has a very pronounced character arc at the end of the film. Woman in the Dunes received 2 Academy Award nominations, Best Foreign Language Film and Best Director for Hiroshi Teshigahara. It's a must-watch for anyone interested in classic Japanese film. When a Woman Ascends the Stairs, 1960. This is a drama. A Ginza hostess must choose between opening her own bar or getting married in this film by Mikiro Naruse. Hideko Takamine is a very beautiful and talented actress who carries the film as her character struggles to balance self-respect with monetary necessities. The interaction between the characters is very good, and the dialogue is notably interesting. Tatsuya Nakadai also appears in a supporting role. Now, Naruse's worldview tends to be more cynical than directors like Ozu, which brings a different perspective to how people and their relationships are portrayed in his movies. Harakiri, 1962. When a ronin requesting seppuku at a feudal lord's palace is told of the brutal suicide of another ronin who previously visited, he reveals how their pasts are intertwined, and in doing so challenges the clan's integrity. Director Masaki Kobayashi creates an attention-grabbing look at different Japanese views of samurai honor, including ritual suicide, thus serving as an informative cultural lesson that is facilitated through an engaging, well-written storyline. The innumerable flashbacks are actually handled with care, thus having a positive impact on the film as a whole. This movie is huge and has achieved a plethora of critical acclaim. The Warped Ones, 1960. This is a crime drama thriller. A juvenile delinquent gets out of prison and causes reckless mayhem. The three main characters include a nutty young woman who helps the man and his buddy commit various crimes like harassment, theft, even rape. This movie is filmed with so much energy and style that it proves to be quite entertaining, despite the fact that the protagonists are reprehensible people. With that said, however, there are some interesting scenarios that give it some depth. For example, the rape victim and her fiancé, the excessive jazz music scene, etc. There's a lot of interplay here that works. Director Koriyoshi Kurahara made an impression with this one. Yojimbo, 1961. It's kind of a drama with some action in it. Akira Kurosawa directs this film about a masterless samurai who manipulates two feuding gangs to destroy one another. Toshiro Mifune is great in the leading role, and his methods of manipulation are quite interesting. There are also some effective bits of humor peppered throughout. The action scenes are fairly short, but the storyline helps to carry the film, and the final showdown is memorable. Yojimbo has been remade and adapted multiple times over the years, and has also had a significant cultural influence over the past half-century, even outside of the film industry. This one is a crowd pleaser. So there you have it. 15 Japanese films from the 1960s that you should watch. One of the best things about having this YouTube channel is that, I tend to notice things when I'm preparing my bigger projects, like the Asian horror playlist or the Takashi Miike playlist, because it kind of forces me to look at a large number of data points that are ordered chronologically. So, for example, when preparing this playlist, this 200 Japanese film recommendation playlist, I realized just how cool Japanese cinema was in the 1960s. This is a pretty fascinating list of films we have tonight. I think it's even more interesting than the 1950s, at least in terms of the kinds of films that were being produced. Japan made a lot of, high art films during the 1960s, with contributions from a plethora of different directors. Definitely an era of Japanese film that needs to be explored. And as we'll see, Japan has produced a ton of great movies in subsequent decades as well. But we're not done with the 1960s yet. There are so many impressive films from this decade. I need to make a part 2 for this video. So my next video in this playlist will be titled 15 More Japanese Movies from the 1960s that you should watch. So look out for that in the next few weeks. As usual, titles for all the films that I'm mentioning in this video are listed in the description box below. Now, I'm not providing availability info on this because most of the films I saw years ago and availability has changed over time. My usual method for checking availability is Google, so be sure to seek out any films that seem interesting to you. My guess is that most of the films, or at least a good chunk of these, are available either on the Criterion channel, YouTube, or physical media. And as always, I will see you next time.